Oh. 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 Hariom and greetings from Seattle. In the beginning of 2020, I had a gym membership which had to be canceled because the gym closed on account of COVID. And you're all saying, we can tell you stop going to the gym. I get it. Fine. But Sheila, my wife, thoughtfully had bought a bike, an exercise bike at that time. And recently, Peloton has made an agreement with Netflix where you can watch shows while you bike. And I just completed a really awesome series on Netflix called Captains of the World. And it's about the 2022 World Cup. Now, when I say World Cup, there's different people who are thinking cricket. That's the fake World Cup. The real World Cup relates to football or soccer. And this is very much about Lionel Messi, who is presently the greatest player, but so much of his greatness came from Diego Maradona. He idolized him. He would wear his clothes, he would wear his shoes, he would try to play like him. And it worked. One of the best players in the world really became the role model for another best player in the world. Now, shifting this to a more sacred sentiment, Pujaswami Chinmayananda shared that the spine or the core of Chinmaya mission is study groups. Now, within a study group, the spine or the core is three verbs. The first verb is shravana. In a study group, for one to practice listening. And that's obvious for most of the seekers who are joining us. The second is chinta. And another word for this, which we use more often, is manana. And that means to reflect, to be an active listener, to be an active reflector. Now, here's the third, which we're not exposed to too much when one studies Pujaswami Chinmayananda's writings, then this secret is more prevalent. It is katana. Katana or kata means to tell stories. But the implication of this is to share. It is by sharing that we nurture clarity. It is by sharing that we're able to create a succession plan. This is the vision of our mentorship sangha, which has completed 3 years and is now in its 4th year, with all of you being part of this. All of you are the Diego Maradona. You wish. All of you are the ones with more experience, and not ordinary experience. I mean sacred experience. You are all seekers from all over the world. And by sharing, you become more sincere. Through katana, you become more sincere, you become more clear. Undoubtedly, though, you're able to radiate what's inside of you to those who have less experience, and your experience can help them. Help them to be clear, help them to be more convinced, help them to be more confident. I offer my appreciation to all of our mentors because you have more responsibilities than our mentees. I know so many of you, when I was by myself, it was easy. Nobody would tell me I'm wrong. Nobody would tell me what to do. Then more relationships came into my life, being married, having a first child, a second child. So I know a lot of you have responsibilities. I can empathize with that. And still, you're offering your resources, time, and effort to share. So my appreciation to all of the mentors and to the team that is facilitating our Sangha. They also have a lot of responsibilities, but they meet and they meet and they meet on how to make this Sangha better. And I don't know if you can make it better. It's that good, so much so that many of our communities are adopting this Sangha model. Our Seeking Culture course, our Parenting Culture course, our Prithvi Seva Sangha course. So my appreciation to our team, and you'll get to meet them very soon. I welcome everyone to the 4th year of our mentorship Sangha. I'm remembering how fortunate all of us are in terms of our secular opportunities and sacred opportunities. So with that, I'm asking everyone to just smile. And our team will continue.
Hari Om, everyone. Hari Om, Vivekji. I'm delighted to introduce two of our speakers for today, who I know very personally from growing up in the UK. So our first speaker is Milan Samani. Milan is a managing partner of Unmarkets, which is an impact-first venture studio that's focused on emerging markets. His whole family are really rooted in Chinmay mission. He himself has been an active Sevak for 25 years, serving in the UK Centre and helping Swami Swarupanandaji scale his Make It Happen program globally. Our second speaker is Jessica. Jessica is a graduate of the University of Oxford and now leads diversity, equity, and inclusion at the BBC. She was introduced to Chinmay Mission almost 20 years ago and has since served in a variety of roles, including currently as a trustee and secretary of Chinmay Mission UK. With that, I will turn to our first speaker, Milan. Please take it away.
Thank you, Prem. And thank you, Vivekji, for the opportunity and the invitation to share a few thoughts. It's really wonderful to see you again, and thank you to you all. So Prem mentioned that I have the good fortune of being able to support Swami Swarupananda in the plans to expand and scale and make it happen. And some of you, I'm sure, are familiar with the Make It Happen course, this 6-day residential program that Swami Swarupananda devised to really bring the essence of the Gita and Upanishads out to people who may not naturally connect with a sort of a mission context. And I was going through the material. It's 18 chapters in total. And in chapter 15, Swamiji actually speaks about the importance of having a mentor and what the qualities of a good mentor are. So I copied the text into a slide, which I'm going to share and just read out. So in chapter 15, Swamiji says, a living mentor, another means to quell the rising storms of fear that can arise when we face the challenges of life is to confide and seek advice in a living mentor. This mentor should have 3 qualities. Number 1, they should have our best interests at heart. Number 2, they should be more wise or mature than we are. And 3, they must live a noble and righteous life. A mentor is someone who will accept us, no matter how inadequate we may feel. And they should also be able to infuse us with confidence and correct us when we falter. Guys, I'm sorry to interrupt. I need to just, my little baby boy is crying. Just give me 20 seconds and I'll be right back. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Sorry about that. So the three qualities. A living mentor should have our best interests at heart, be more wise or mature than we are, and live a noble and righteous life. A mentor is someone who will accept us no matter how inadequate we may feel. And they should be able to infuse us with confidence and correct us when we falter. Right now, we might be thinking that there is no one in our lives that falls into this category. However, when we look around, we may find a suitable mentor in our loving parents, family members, teachers, or friends. So what I'd like to do is take about maybe sort of 8-9 minutes and just speak to you a little bit about the role of my mentor in my life, just by taking you through a few kind of sort of chapters in my life, and in particular, a very challenging experience that I had just over a year ago. So I'm 43 now. So back in 2002, I was in my kind of early 20s. I was a chartered accountant because my dad told me I had to be one. And I was a Vedanta student because my mum kind of sort of manipulated me into going to a chit camp when I was 19. And I'm sure, like many of you, I was so inspired by the mission, the warmth of that community, the Swamiji's teachings and Vedanta just fascinated me. And when I was in my sort of mid to late 20s, I remember being in India and actually talking to Vivekji when he was at Sandipani there. And I was kind of pondering, how could there be a way where I could make money teaching Vedanta, and actually make a living out of it? And I had lots and continue to have lots and lots of worldly desires. So, how could I do that? And so then in 2012, 10 years later, when I was in my early 30s, 30 years old, I came up with the idea for the Entrepreneur Lab. So this was a corporate social innovation accelerator. What we would do is go to large corporates and identify individuals in there who wanted to do work which was more entrepreneurial, but also more impactful, but weren't ready to leave their day jobs, and ask them if they had early stage ideas for new products and services which could make money for their company, but could also make wider social impact. And my thinking behind this was give people a Goma Yoga experience. Let them work for something for a greater good and a greater cause, where the personal benefit is not immediately apparent. And when they do that, they will discover and unlock capacities that they never knew that they had, and will be able to achieve great things. And so from 2012 to 2015, the Entrepreneur Lab became very successful. We had about 20 large Fortune 100 clients, Barclays, Disney, many others, ran labs all over the world. And then in 2015, the Entrepreneur Lab naturally evolved into my company, which was called Till Ventures. And we were a venture builder. We would work with large corporates, Barclays, Pearson, BMW, about 8 clients in total, and design with them new impact-first businesses. So Mars, for example, saying that we want to create a new line of food targeting rural mass markets in India to bring nutrition out to the masses. So we were a venture builder. Now, I took on a partner who was an academic. He was a professor from Cornell. He had the real expertise in sort of business model innovation. And we built up a team of 12 and operated all over the world. And then in 2020, COVID hit, and we had to downsize quite significantly. We shrunk down to a team of 4. A lot of our clients we lost. BMW, all factories were closed, showrooms were closed. Mars was operating in India, borders were shut. But we hung on to 2 clients, Barclays and Shell. And then in 2022, everything collapsed. Barclays messed us around. It wasn't really their fault. There was a leadership change. In May 2022, I was told, look, you're going to get about $1 million worth of revenue this year. Make sure that you've got the staffing available. And then by June, I was told that actually it's going to be $2 million. Make sure you have more staff available. And then in sort of October, I was told actually looks like that we're going to shut down this whole incubator, which has been running for 10 years. And then in November, that is in fact what they did. So all this time, 6 months is going past, I've got expenses going out of the door and no income coming in. Shell came to the rescue, offered a $600,000 contract to do some work out in East Africa. But by that time, my partner, and we had a small team at that point, partner and one of the key team members, they just wanted to go in a different direction. They wanted to move away from impact, not work so much in emerging markets. And I took that really, really personally. I felt very rejected. Felt like my whole team, my partner, who was honestly my closest friend, really wanted to kind of move away and do something quite different. And I felt very rejected. I felt very small. And it's amazing how your mind can be your greatest friend, but can also be your greatest enemy. And I conjured a whole new narrative in my mind that any success I had was just a fluke. I wasn't really doing my guru's work. I wasn't really sharing Vedanta. There isn't really any meaning in anything. And I fell into a deep, dark hole of despair. And when you create that narrative for yourself, that's what I started telling everyone. So this is November 2022, I told my wife that, look, actually, I'm, all these kind of negative self-thoughts and this depression that I was in, I vocalized to her. And she was shocked. She said, well, I always thought you were really successful and we've never had to worry about anything. But look at you, you're a total wreck. You can't even do simple tasks. My parents, my dad, who was very proud of me, was like, look, he's got all these great clients, started saying, oh, well, maybe it was all too good to be true. Milan, leave all this, just, go and get a safe job. And then I'd speak to friends and confide in them. And that little tinge of envy kind of comes out, sort of advice and well wishes, but also a bit of like, maybe you were getting a bit too big for your boots. And, I knew you were just kind of getting carried away with the money and you kind of lost your purpose. And so all of that meant that all of it came together where me and everyone around me were saying, just close this company down and move on. Figure out what you're going to do with your life. And at that moment, Swami Swarupananda came to London and he said, no, don't shut it down. Keep going. Go to Shell, win that piece of work. If it needs be, do it alone. So this is October 2022. I went in the depths of a deep depression, managed to secure a $600,000 client with Shell. And then, of course, the worst happened. My team left, partner left, and I thought that I was at rock bottom, but I fell even low and even deeper into a despair. And I said to Samani, I can't do this. And I have to just close this company down. I know there's $600,000 on the table. It's enough to save the company, but I can't do it. Shut it down, close it. And then in January 2023, I went to make it happen. And there, Swamiji told me three things. Milan, I know you've closed the company down, you start a new company. And you go back to Shell and Barclays and see if there is any work there that you can then do. Number two, have nothing more to do with your old team. And three, you build a new team now, but never make yourself dependent, actually, or even in your mind, on anyone. And so, to cut a long story short, that was January 2023, when I didn't actually even have to go back to Shell. When I left Make It Happen, I got onto the plane, I landed in London. Make It Happen was in India. I landed in London, and when my phone regained signal, there was a WhatsApp from the person at Shell saying, could we speak? That was a few $100,000 piece of work that then became several million, which has followed on with others, and now looks like we'll be at 10 million before the end of the year, a new team. What I couldn't do in 10 years prior looks like will be achieved within 1 year. Now, I share all of this to say that being a mentor is a true privilege. I know none of us are swamis, none of us are acharyas, but being someone's mentor can transform and change their entire life. And so what I would ask you is to say that as a mentor, treat it as a real privilege. And remember these three things that Swamiji has said. Have the other person's best interest at heart, with no selfish ego whatsoever. Number two, be more wise and mature. What that means is discover within ourselves reservoirs of wisdom and life experience that we can draw upon. And lastly, live a noble and righteous life. We ourselves should strive to have that purity, because in that purity that we can see things as they truly are. And when we see things as they truly are, we give the right advice. Everyone told me shut the company down. Swamiji was the only one that said, you keep going. So thank you all for allowing me to share a few of these thoughts. I'll stop there and hand over to Jessica.
Hurry on. Thanks, Milan. It's so wonderful to hear your journey, especially as we've served together for over 2 decades, or almost 2 decades, I think. So yeah, hurry on, everyone. It's wonderful to be here. And thank you, Prem, for inviting myself and Milan to be part of this amazing initiative. And also my pranams to Vivekji. Milan's talked about who is the ultimate mentor, and talked about sort of Swamiji, and the blessings and the honor of having Acharya like Swamiji and having a guru in one's life. I'm just going to spend a few minutes talking about some practical tips for being a mentor and being part of a successful and effective mentor-mentee relationship. So I think the first thing I do want to say is that it is a partnership, and you'll get out what you put in. And that might seem more obvious for a mentee's perspective, because generally we see the mentee as someone that's looking to get something out of the relationship for their own growth, whether it's in the career aspect or whether it's family or relationship goals. But actually, I think it's been touched on by Milan and also by Vivekji in the intro. But actually, there's an opportunity here for growth for the mentor as well, and even being that listener, that person who can reflect and also bring out the best in the mentee. You'll see that actually it has that ability to bring out that growth and clarity in oneself as a mentor as well. And I've experienced this personally. I think even when we talk about this a lot when we facilitate our first study class within Chinmay Mission, and I know that certainly you find that actually it looks like from the outside, it looks like actually it's the class facilitator that's sort of spreading this knowledge, sharing, like Vivekji said, to the class. But actually the person that is growing the most from that is actually the person who's done that preparation, who's done that reflection beforehand as well. And so I would say, and this is just completely from my experience, I think even as a mentor, go into that relationship having done some preparation, having done some reflection as well on yourself, and also what you're looking to give to the relationship. Then coming to the next point here, I think it's really, really important just to say the obvious here, that because this is part of the mentorship sangha and this is not part of a corporate scheme or a university scheme and other forums where we might find mentoring, I think it's so important that the mentee is empowered and given that freedom to really bring their whole self to the relationship. And by that, I mean, let's not compartmentalize, and we do this a lot, I find, especially kind of living in the UK. I'm sure it's similar living in the US as well, but we'll kind of almost try and like switch on and switch off certain aspects of our personality to be like, okay, this is my professional self and this is my family goals and my personality, and this is who I am when I'm at the mission. But actually that integration is absolutely key to one's success, and we see that time and time again. We see that as like the heart of what is being taught in Vedanta, that actually it's only when there's integration of thought, word and deed that we can actually really tap into and fulfill our true potential. And actually in this relationship between a mentor and mentee, it's really important that we don't look at things in isolation, and as a mentor to be able to use the benefit of the fact that we have Acharya Vivek, we have the teachings of Buddha Guruji, Buddha Gurudev, Swamiji, and have access to this goldmine of Vedanta to actually make sure that we're not compartmentalizing and actually to really explore, as we all have through the years of study, actually to really explore what is one's higher purpose, and to kind of integrate that into one's career goals, into one's relationship goals as well. And I think really making that absolutely key in this relationship will be of help for the mentee, but also for growth for a mentor as well. So I think that's absolutely, there's one thing that I want to say about this. It's that don't separate personalities and aspects of life, but actually to really integrate one's higher purpose into this, and let that be a conversation that's very much on the table through this process. There's a nice quote here by Guruji, Swami Tejamananda, that's saying that the motivation of a leader is to achieve a higher objective. And so all of you here are leaders, your mentors, you've been part of this framework for many years, part of the study of Vedanta. And so even through this seva, it's to achieve not only our own higher objective, but also to provide a platform for the mentee to also be able to really progress in their higher objective as well, and keeping that goal in mind. And then the next point is around active listening, which actually Vivekji so brilliantly and has eloquently described already. But this idea of Shravanam, Mananam. And I think it's just really important to be aware that quite often we don't actively listen, even whilst, especially when we're on Zooms, it's even kind of, I think, a lot of behaviors that we wouldn't normally have in person, and I'm talking even in a professional sense, like when you're in a meeting room with people, very rarely would people, use their phones. But now when people are on Zooms, there's one screen and there's another screen here and there's other things going on. And I saw that the opening slide said, like, try to keep yourself distraction free. But I think that's part of it. That's a big part of it for active listening. But I think there's more to it as well to really bear in mind. And I think it's just being able to listen in a way that we empty out before the session, to actually leave whatever's going on in our lives, whether the last conversation you may have had, whatever it is that's going on, to actually just to park that. And to be honest, we will have experienced that same practice. I know we used to do it a lot when we started our CHIC classes, actually, our study classes, that we would say right at the beginning, it's like, whatever's just happened at your day at work, whatever's happened at home, you park that and you bring yourself to this study class, and we would start our opening prayers. So whatever format you might choose, but something that really engages yourself, but also your mentee at the start of a meeting, at the start of a conversation, to really make sure that you're present is really key. And I think the second part, that she also talked about the mananam part, the reflection. And I've been part of these exercises in definitely in my workplace, where we've actually had people, very senior leaders, paired up, and we'll have like a coach who'll kind of watch us do this, and they'll literally pair up, like, someone at a director level with another director, and you do this kind of 2-3 minute skit where one person talks about any topic and the other person is like the active listener, but can also get more information from that. And we found that actually there can be a tendency to interrupt. There can be a tendency to almost plant questions based on where you want to take the conversation as the mentor. But actually active listening is letting that person talk about what they want to talk about. And then actually it's a real art of reflecting back to them what they've said to you. So actually sometimes just by saying back what someone has said, you get them to open up and to really delve into whatever might be at the heart of what they are struggling with, what they're trying to figure out. So this active listening and reflection is really key in that. And I just wanted to share, just to build on this point around active listening, is because in my work, I do a lot around unconscious biases as well. It's very much part of diversity, equity, inclusion kind of training. And a key bias that we talk about is something called confirmation bias, which some of you may have been familiar with. So this idea that when we're listening to somebody speak, our brain is continually taking shortcuts. So we're filling in the blanks of what someone is saying in line with whatever an earlier opinion is of them, or an earlier opinion that exists about a particular topic. So we're constantly filling in these blanks. And actually, this very much ties into our study of Vedanta. We're talking about vasanas and certain tendencies and certain, raga, dvesha, like tendencies to lean towards one thing and lean away from another. It all is all part of, in my opinion, like a similar theme here. So just being very aware of not filling in the blanks, and just that awareness can really, really help, I think, be an effective mentor. So that's what I want to say on that. And the next point is around, I guess, just the commitment of being a mentor. And I think obviously all of you have signed up to do this program, but to really treat each meeting as a commitment, as a seva, as a duty, and to avoid cancelling, rescheduling where possible. And I think it's just honouring the commitment that we've made is really, really important to really get that kind of cadence and that rhythm going of the relationship. I think that's really important, especially at the beginning stages in the first few meetings. And the last part I wanted to just say is to really enjoy it. I think that this is such a valuable asset to have this Sangha. The fact that it's the fourth year is so brilliant. And I think to have this ability to be able to share, as Vivekji said, to be able to grow and to guess progress on this journey together in this way is such a beautiful thing. And yeah, I hope it's a journey of a lot of growth, and also we talk about we do our opening prayers of Om Sahina Bhavatu. We say, may we be protected, but also may we be nourished. May we enjoy this. And that's what I wanted to end on. So thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you so much to Jessica and to Milan Milan, thank you so much for your vulnerable sharing. Jessica, thank you for the really pointed advice. It resonated with a lot of what we do in this community. So gratitude to you both for joining us this session and in last session as well. I will share a few notes about the program and what to expect for this year. So I'll share my screen. Can I get a thumbs up from Mukul if you can see my screen? Awesome. All right, fantastic. So welcome to Mentorship Sangha 2024 mentors. So far, we have 90 folks who are registered in the program. We have 70 that are matched and paired, and we have roughly around infinity level of excitement for the program ahead. So gratitude to you all for being here, and do spread the word, because we will continue to match on an ongoing basis. All of you folks are priority matches. But we will continue to make sure that we accept people in the program so we can grow this and spread mentorship. So we've expanded the number of pods that we have this year in line with all of the new folks who have joined the team in serving capacity. So we now have 9 pods. We have Pod Delight, which is people. We have Joy, which is Janani, Laugh, Lavanya, Smile, Sheetal, Mindful, Mukul, Noble, Neha, Happy, Shruti, Truth, Theos, and Rejoice, Prem. So you will be all in a pod. If you're unaware of what that is, a pod is basically a collection of 3 or 4 mentor-mentee pairs, and it's supposed to serve as a little support network within this wider program. As you have any issues that come or anything you want to talk about, do contact your pod leader, who can kind of be your first person that you escalate anything to or want to chat to about. We will also be in constant communication with you to make sure that things are going smoothly. So a lot has been shared already about what a mentor is. And so I will go through this relatively quickly, but more definitionally of how we think about it in this program. A mentor is ultimately an advisor, a friend, a supporter, a big brother, a big sister. A mentor is not supposed to be a therapist or a counselor. So keep that in mind. If you're having any challenges with your mentee, please do bring it up to us. And in fact, this year at the bottom, you'll see that we have a professional advisor. So Rachna ji, who I think is on the call as well, she is a trained pediatrician. So as any issues arise that seem outside of the scope of this program, anything that can require emergency attention, do escalate it to your pod leader. We'll escalate it to Rachanaji and make sure that you and your mentee have enough support available. The second thing is a mentor is ultimately still a seeker. We are all on this call. We are all learning from all of the communities and courses that we are part of. And so don't feel that you have to be a Satguru who has all the answers. I often have told my mentor, I don't know. I really don't know that. I will try my best to figure that out. I'll do my research, but I don't have the answer. So don't feel there's a need to kind of pretend to know everything as well. That bit of vulnerability often goes a long way. The third thing is a mentor is available in a reasonable capacity. We try and encourage everyone to meet at least twice a month for half an hour, however long you like. But we're not expecting you folks to be on call 24/7. If that's something that your mentee is demanding of you, please do escalate that to us, and we can try best to resolve it. And then fourthly is the sort of values of a mentor is someone who is empathetic, compassionate, organized, and committed to the program. So bring that positive energy, as Jessica mentioned. Some best practices. So over the years, we've collected a few best practices based on our experiences, the experiences of others through the survey and such, and a few things that I think I'd like to call out. As Jessica mentioned, listening is really the number one priority here, active listening. So I won't go into that anymore. The second thing is, if you're able to, try and root your conversations in Vedanta. This isn't possible throughout. It's very normal to start a conversation talking about one's day, etc. But the more advice you're able to provide from a spiritual grounding, I think the more value that mentees will get from you specifically, which they may not be able to get from other folks in their life. If at this point you're thinking, oh, I don't know, like I don't know that much Vedanta, do consider joining a regular satsang. There are so many courses offered every day of the week from Vivekji, and I think ideas that come up in those classes have often brought up immediately in conversations. Helps you feel really grounded. The third thing is start each session with an Om or a prayer to really ground the conversation in the way that we do with all of our workshops. Setting a fixed time. So as mentors, I think we're primarily responsible, at least in the beginning, of making sure that we're both able to meet at a certain time. Something that's really effective is just having a standing calendar invite and making sure that you're kind of able to make that as much as possible. I found that's a lot more successful than trying to schedule each individual one, because it just kind of anchors you into knowing that you have this call every 2 weeks. And if you need to shift it every now and then, that is okay. But having a standing calendar invite is something that is super helpful. Use video calls. So we kind of know this from being part of Vivekji's community, but video on is a lot more engaging. And to the extent that you're able to meet in person too, this is something we weren't able to do when we first started this program, and we now have the blessing of being able to meet with each other more in person. And so do make the most of that. It really helps to deepen the bond. And then finally, finding common passions. Well, one thing we try and do when we match mentors and mentees is find common areas of interests, common areas of expertise. And we do that because it helps to really build the bond. And so identifying areas of similarity between you and your mentee is a really good way of sort of breaking the ice and consistently getting them to see themselves in you through this common passion. With that, a few guidelines. So number one, do talk to your mentee twice a month. Number two, do attend the wellness workshops that are monthly as well. So one note here is we are no longer using Luma. They've changed their rules. And so what we are doing instead is having the same workshop code. You've been sent an email today with the workshop details. Bookmark that email, or I think it had the word bookmark in it, so you can search your email for the word bookmark. And just note that that will be the code every month for the rest of the year. So you won't get anything from Luma. Please make sure that you save that. The third piece is, if you're new to the community, we have this thing called Monday Musings, which is an awesome reflection that comes out twice a month on a Monday. It used to be over email, but we are transitioning more to WhatsApp. And so do check WhatsApp for those Monday Musings. They'll have some announcements, but more importantly, they'll have a really cool reflection, which you can use to inspire discussion with your mentee. And finally, do engage on WhatsApp. We like to, build a community out of this through Wednesday Wins and all other initiatives over WhatsApp. And so do engage there. It really helps us to feel we're part of something and to connect with other people outside of your pods. Next steps is your pod leader will reach out to you either this week or next to schedule a one-on-one call. So this will be one of us as well as you and your mentee to kind of kick things off. And then from that point onwards, you're welcome to schedule meetings with your mentee on your own schedule. And then the second piece is do join the WhatsApp group. If you haven't joined it thus far, here is a QR code. So just scan that and it should give you an invitation to join. Okay, I think that is all for me. At this point, I will hand it over to Deepal, who will gently transition us back into an American accent. Hurry up.
Thanks, Prem. Hari Om, everyone. I would say the more boring accent, but that's okay. It was a great workshop, and what we're going to do now is we're going to break out into our pods for a discussion. And as Prem mentioned, the pods are what you've been assigned to if you have been paired with a mentee. If you have not been paired with a mentee yet, you will. But for now, what you'll do is you'll join any of the pods you want to join. There's a list of us. There's 9 pods. Just choose one if you don't have one already. And yeah, should I say y'all can join one? And the rest of us you should know what pod you are in because you got an email last week telling you who you matched with and your pod leader. And the discussion for today, please introduce yourselves, have fun with this, get to know each other. It's always really exciting to be part of a smaller pod within such a large group, as Prem mentioned. And with that, the discussion, I think they're going to post it as well, but it is, what can you personally do to be an effective mentor? Again, it's what can you do to be an effective mentor?
I'll take a moment to share something that we discussed in our group, which was this idea of connecting well with our mentees through active listening and trying to understand those things that are outside of our normal scope to make sure we are able to engage with them in the best way. And then there was also another point mentioned about the idea of truly understanding them from a place of similarity. So when we can connect with similar views in life, then we can put ourselves in their shoes. So wishing everyone the best. Everyone here is wonderful, so I'm sure you will all be wonderful mentors. With our last few minutes, I just wanted to take a couple minutes to ask if there are any questions. We can take a moment to answer those.
How do we know when or if our mentorship goes beyond mentorship and like into the realm of they need to seek professional help?
Hari Om, Vikas, appreciate your question. It is really important for us to keep in mind that sometimes it does kind of, sometimes you might hear something that you're not comfortable with. Rachna had to drop off, but it's really just if they share anything that kind of makes you feel like, okay, this is something that could potentially cause them, they could be causing self-harm, or they could be causing harm to somebody else, or maybe they're in a situation at home that feels a little bit uncomfortable. So, yeah, I would say that just if they share anything specifically that makes you concerned that they might harm themselves or others, or they're not in a safe home environment. And even I would err better safe than sorry. So always feel free to reach out to your pod leader and we'll immediately connect you with Rachna.
Yeah, and just to echo, for sure. I think, Vikas, if you have even 1% doubt, just reach out to your pod leader. First, that would be the first step. The other thing is, just for your reference and the mentors here, we've not really had that issue. We've had it with one mentee in the entire 4 years. It's not common, just for your frame of reference. But if you feel even just an ounce of doubt, I would say just run it by your pod leader. That would be the first step for sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for attending today. I hope you learned something new, had a great time meeting your pods, and enjoyed the discussion that we had. We are all looking forward to a wonderful Mentorship Sangha 2024. And just a couple announcements before we head out for today. The first being in the Chinmaya Mission Niagara efforts, we are doing efforts for equality, which is a food donation effort. And with that, we're trying to go with the idea of trying to raise about 1,000 pounds of food from our Sangha. So that's about 10 pounds per person. So we ask that you guys work with your mentees to see how that can be done. And the pod leaders will be sending out more information regarding that. And there should be some more information in the chat if you're interested. And then lastly, as Prem mentioned, the next steps will be stay tuned for emails from your pod leaders, and that they will set up our initial meet and greets. Well, thank you everyone for attending today. We had a wonderful wellness workshop and excited to see you at the next one. I'll end with an Om and then we can go on our days. Oh. Shanti, shanti, shanti.